All right, Andrew. So, like I was telling you, this is different from my scripture notes audience, but and I think I told you briefly about this. Nobody in my audience really probably knows my own background, and I'm not going to go into it a lot, but about 18 years ago or so, my oldest daughter was in third grade, and I found out that the hard way at the end of her school year that our school district was no longer teaching the times tables or long division. And I'm an accountant by trade. And I was like, how in the world can this be happening? Tens of thousands of kids were not getting basic math skills. And it took me a few years to find out like what was going on. I mean, I got involved actually pretty quickly, and became drew a lot of fire, I'll say, and created some publicity about this. And it was an uncomfortable situation for me. I never intended to, become like an advocate, activist kind of person to like, hey, this doesn't make any sense. And
Mm-hmm.
it took me into cultural things that were happening. And I knew as I got deeper and deeper into who was behind the agenda that I realized this is all intentional, and it was geared to, number one, it took me a while to figure this out, but it was geared to separate parent and child relationships because it was new math, and it was some of these things that parents weren't familiar with. They were trying to teach them in a new way, and also, I'll just say, dumb it down so that the kids weren't learning as much and the parents couldn't help them. And then the teachers became authority figures over the parents. Like, that's not the way my teacher does it. And so the parents were actually losing power, losing control over their children. And I saw the cultural issue. And so when I watched a couple of your interviews and stuff, and I thought,
Yeah, the
once
same thing.
once a person sees what you explain, you can't unsee it. It's like getting an inoculation against some of these things that are going on to literally pull children away from parents in various ways, bring a certain indoctrinating ideal to them that
Mm-hmm.
maybe the parents don't want. And it's like, where have we crossed the line in that area? That's what I wanted to have you on to talk about. And I'm grateful that you agreed to come on. And I think this is going to be very valuable for people that are going to watch this. So let me start off asking you a few basic questions so we all get to know you a little bit better.
Well, before we do that, can I just
Yeah,
tell them a couple things so I
yeah,
don't waste their time?
sure.
Because I mean, I'm cool, but not nearly as good as what this stuff is I was going to share, if that's okay.
Yeah,
So, quick thing. It's cool you became an activist, or great you became an activist because something happened to your child. What we need people to become more active, even if something isn't happening to their children.
right.
I'm really struggling to help people unless they have some sort of point of pain that they're like, yeah, I went through that. I want to help. So anyways, it's like a human nature thing not to be like involved unless you have some self-interest incentive or something bad that happened to you. We got to get rid of that. You just got to help either way. Anyways, that's been an issue. What has happened is in the last couple of weeks, there were a couple people that asked for these podcasts, and Greg asked for one. I didn't know it would blow up. And what has happened in the last 2 weeks is I've had people all over the industry reach out to me, from Disney, from ILM. If you don't know ILM, they make Iron Man, they make Star Wars. It's George Lucas's company. Most people don't know what it is, but it's the best graphics house. From Lucasfilm, that's what makes animation for Star Wars. From Weta, they do like Avatar and Lord of the Rings. They're down in New Zealand. I've had people reach out from Warner Brothers, the story department. I don't know any of these people. And they all want to call, they all want to talk, and they all are confirming what I'm saying how heartbroken and mad they are that they have to work on it and do it. And they're asking for jobs, they're asking for like help, they're asking for like what they could do. And I got to tell you some of the things they've written and shown me. I'm getting emails, I'm getting calls. There's writers, there was one of the biggest, a super high up Disney person contacted me, and it was mind blowing. I would tell you all their names, but they will get fired
Yeah.
if I explain them. There's one other thing. People are getting mad at me because I'm trying to not watch Disney crumble like DreamWorks did and like the Boy Scouts did. And it's not because I think it is because I think there's a good core at it originally, and I see the stuff that's happening as like an outer shell of complete awfulness that's ruining it. So I feel like there's still a chance. They get mad that I said invest in stock in it. I didn't mean that for anyone else. I meant that for me. And by the way, you don't make money doing that. You lose money doing that, a lot of money. I was saying that because what is happening, one of the ways the social engineering, people are saying that it's the CEO doing it or it's the directors. They are, but they are not the ones initiating it. This is coming from outside. Maybe some of them and ours, I can't tell at DreamWorks if they were initiating it, but for sure, what people are doing is they're buying the stock. There are activists, groups, and I don't know if you ever read the earnings calls or anything like that. These people are threatening, pushing the most aggressive policies that have nothing to do with their businesses on these businesses. And they're just saying, whoa, okay, I guess we're going to kowtow to this because we just want them to go away. And it's not just like movies, it's like finance groups, like PayPal, all these different groups. And it's all, anyways, that's why it's happening. So there's a lot of people, a lot of different companies really furious about it. All of it is anti-scripture stuff we learned, anti-truth. It's the patterns we're watching, that cycle that we watch happening. So anyways, I want to show you something that might be really valuable. I got this one today.
Yeah.
This one today. This is from an artist. This one hit me like crazy. An artist from Las Vegas. Okay. He creates the sets. This is going to tell everyone where I didn't even know where things were going. Let me back up so I can explain. Where we've come to is in our culture and in our movies and in our media and in our finance and our businesses, what they're supporting and pushing and thrusting on people in our government, in our healthcare, it's all being thrust on everyone, is like you said, anti-traditional family, which is like parents not being in control of their kids, not being the main influence, anti-religion, tradition, anti-elders, older people. This is what we were doing at DreamWorks. We were literally calling them the religious zealots, the voted for Proposition 8, hyper-political stuff, anti-groups, conservative groups like Heritage Foundation, which I didn't even know what it was until DreamWorks. Those types of things, like Boy Scout groups, anti-masculine things, those are where we've arrived at. And we were doing that 10 years ago, and now we're seeing the results of it. But like, where does that go? I don't know. I'm not contributing to it. But I assume I know where it goes, which is very dark, evil, satanic type stuff. And we're beginning to see the cusp of it. But I want to show you what this Vegas artist just told me.
Yeah.
This is from today. He creates the sets for one of the largest, I don't want to say the actual hotel, but it is one of the largest on the Vegas Strip. And it does the largest show in Las Vegas. And he creates the sets, okay? So he said, hey, I'm a digital artist. This is horrible. CAD designer in Vegas. I am moved by your call to action. I've been present with my kids as I've watched these pseudo-mocking portrayals pop up in movies lately, and I can't believe how many of them I missed by their subtlety. There's some movies we don't watch anymore either. Okay. Puts his job title that helps build and design the manufacture and set designs for this hotel. It's one of the biggest in Vegas. There seems to me, I want you to take this last line. It is very powerful, and I think it will be very valuable for all of us. There seems to me to be an effort in the designs we get from them that push a paganistic agenda under the cover of fantasy and whimsy. I'm going to read that again, and I'm going to tell you what he's talking about. There seems to me to be an effort in the designs. He's talking about the designs that they're building the sets out of. This is just another way to get into people's eyes and ears, okay? He's doing it in live shows. We were doing it in movies, so it shows on screens. says there seems to be, and this is today, there seems to me to be an effort in the designs we get from them that push a paganistic agenda under the cover of fantasy and whimsy, meaning he's being asked to create symbols and looks and feels and sounds and experiences in these sets that are being under the cover of fantasy and whimsy, but are pushing towards a paganistic culture. I think where we go from here, and I don't think this is weird at all to start patterning where this goes, because we have just begun to do the godless stuff in movies. But where do you go from there? Right now, we're not blown away by things we were social engineering 10 years ago, like pronouns and people thinking they're dogs and cats and people thinking they're switching back and forth genders and doing all sorts of whack stuff. People think age is going to come next. This guy is telling me, and because Vegas is one of the front lines of lost their minds, it is one of the front lines of pushing the next step. And they're looking towards a God removal, a paganistic, where people will begin to so I think we should warn and begin telling people and begin so they don't get sideswiped. People get sideswiped by this stuff and then they're late and then they react. It would be so great, like you are an activist, to get in front of it and not wait till it's so bad that we're picking up pieces of Disney, but we're actually helping them keep their walls and their value so they don't start crumbling so fast that it's impossible to put them back up. We're going to start hearing stuff where I like this other God. Haven't you seen this other God? You think that's crazy, and I think it's crazy, but it won't be crazy in 5 to 10 years, where you watch people worshiping paganistic God, and they're implanting right now the symbols and the culture to begin that happening. That's what he's saying from Vegas right here. I was mind blown by it. I have a meeting with him tomorrow. I can't wait to talk to him about it. I want to learn more from him. The people were also saying, why would I ever tell people at Disney or any of these guys who are reaching out from like ILM to not whistleblow? I don't tell them not to whistleblow, sort of like I did. I didn't really whistleblow. Whistleblowing wasn't a thing at DreamWorks back then. I went there in private meetings, expressed my concern. To this day, I have no desire to hurt DreamWorks or cause them pain or burn them up or anything. It is watching them crumble what is bringing me to the emotion and the oomph to do something about it, because I can't watch it repeat. So,
we look back on some of the things that they've done in the past, and we're like, oh, this is a great film. You know, it's so wonderful. And then to see, the trajectory and what's happened, and you're like, how did that happen? And adults need to pull it back. You are the adults. We are the adults. It's time to pull it back and say, okay, thanks. No, we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. We've become overly compassionate and overkind to the expense of values, principles, and pillars. And we're getting a really weird world. And so people ask, why do you tell people not to whistleblow? I don't tell them not to whistleblow. I say, you can do it. But number one, they're going to get fired immediately. There is a culture within our church and everywhere that if you bring up any sort of criticism, you're gone. It is, in my opinion, the wrong way to handle people that bring up a red flag. You actually want that red flag brought up as early as possible so you can correct it. They will get fired in a New York second at Disney or any of the studios if they bring up this stuff. So I don't tell them not to whistleblow, but I tell them and I plead with them, try to help from the inside. You have good value, you have good skill sets. Can you try to get them to refocus on what they do best, which is their value? And look, if it burns, it burns, but at least you tried. And if you want to whistleblow, you can. You can light it up, you can blow it up, but what awaits you is the church will not be there for you. Family members will not be there for you, sort of, some if you're lucky. Friends will not be there for you. Jobs will not be there for you. Money will not be for you. There is no structure for whistleblowers or some sort of life that happens after. I have a whistleblower friend who's a teacher, and he was a wonderful teacher. I can't even believe his eyes when I look at him. And he has to put up fences now in Louisiana. His whole schooling, his whole master's, his whole everything just wiped. Andrew, for the benefit of those that haven't heard you speak on another podcast or something, I'd like you to explain briefly just how the indoctrination process works. And if you want, I'll put up like the picture of Peabody and Sherman that you sent me. Let me see.
Well, I can just tell them. I can just tell them really quick, and then you can throw up pictures.
Okay.
So if you want to hear the story, it's on like 3 podcasts. Okay.
Okay.
The Raising Family podcast. If you just Google Raising Family podcast, and you can put Andrew Young, it'll get right to it. Or you go Raising Family, and you can search through them. Raising Family podcast. That was my neighbor. I didn't start doing this. I didn't ask to do this. My neighbor was like, "Hey, you came from DreamWorks. How was it?" I was like, "Well, it was amazing, but they were kind of doing some corrupt stuff." She's like, "Wait, what?" And that's how it starts. She's like, "I want to do a podcast." I was like, "All right, fine." I thought like 100 people would care. I'd be like, "Okay, it's out there. Good." People are getting warnings. From there, though, tons of folks saw it. And then Fair LDS wanted to do something because members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints were one of the specific targets we were targeting in the movies, in children's films, to make them look like psychopaths. How it is done is this. We take a villain and we take the things that a Catholic or a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or a conservative or a father, like a father, not something he would say, but how a responsible father would behave. A little bit more firm, a little bit more militant. And they will take that, even a military character. We will take that thing we want people to hate. We will take the things they say, they look like their clothing, what they do. So for us, we took phrases from the Proclamation of the Family, and then we have a villain that you have brought up to hate in the movie. So you make the villain do things like mean things to animals, just downright evil stuff, yelling, always being short, ill-tempered, just things that people naturally repulse against. And then you have that villain say the words from the Proclamation of the Family, and the kid or the adult associates that idea, that type of person, that group with a psychopath or a villain. The reverse is also happening more often now, but it's still the same way, is you will take heroes, okay? People that do courageous things, people that do life-saving things, characters that do these, funny characters, witty characters, and you will make them always gay. You will make them not married. You will make them you will always make them college educated because that's the only way they could have learned anything. You will make them not religious. If they're a priest, they will never be a hero. Never. They will always be sort of corrupt and have a dual face. And if they're a father and they're married, they will always, and this is mostly post-90s, anyways, for the heroes, we do the same thing. We show them heroic, and then we put the negative behavior that we want people to adopt that they currently aren't embracing or cultural hasn't really accepted. And that's how we make them accept it, tolerate it, and desire it. And so that's what social engineering is. People call it propaganda. People call it an agenda. This movie has an agenda. No, it's social engineering. It's architecting the mind of a child or an adult. It's really easy for a child because they're watching these things on repeat. The child, for some reason, I don't know why, does not want novelty. It's weird. An adult wants novelty. A new movie every week, a new episode, a new show. A child doesn't want that. I don't know why. This would be a fascinating study. A child wants Toy Story 1 500 times in a row. And thank heavens, people ask, what are some good ones? Toy Story 1 is a non-engineered one. There are several others. People asked, there was a really cool girl that just responded right before this, Akita. She wanted to know some shows for her kids. Kenan and Kel is still good. And I've been watching it. They'll show policemen, and you will see them like a policeman. They will not be heinous, okay? You will show all races, and they will not be propagandizing you that these races are so separate and the color of their skin makes them so different that they should be at odds with each other, which is the most insane thing they're producing right now, which is so backwards. So anyways, that's what it is. If you want to find it, the Raising Family podcast, LDS Fair, or the big one that's just gone is the Quick Media. It has tons of examples where I show tons of examples. It has the whole story of what happened at DreamWorks. So you can watch those and you can listen to them. Just Google them and you can watch them. Everyone asks, I want to see examples. The Quick Media just came out today with like 10 examples. And then if you want to see another one, Harper, this college kid, Latter-day Takes, he had me on with a professor, and they like didn't believe. They were like, no, this isn't happening. What? And I was like, okay, I actually like this because this is the response most people give. And we just went through clip by clip. And by the end, they understood. And yeah, so that's Latter Day Takes. You can look that one up and you can see a bunch of examples there. But more important, it's not just me now. We have high up folks in Disney. We have people ILM, Weta, the Vegas, the Strip. I have moms. I've got this mom. I could read this one if you want when you're ready, but this is the mom, homeschooled her daughter, gave her everything. And where is the line? She and her sister had never had a single argument in 17 years. I get like several of these a day because they adored each other and valued their relationship. After a year and a half of college, she came home for a weekend visit, belligerent, disrespectful, and saying vile things to me and my older daughter. I can't even repeat the vile things she said to us. My youngest daughter, and this is a thing kids are being trained to do and being told to do. This is like one of the engineering things on social media, particularly. My youngest daughter cut all contact with me. Okay, there's a term for this. I don't know what it is because it's new, but they're teaching people how to cut contact with their families, how to ghost them and how to like get rid of them. So she did it. She cut all contact with me and my oldest daughter. That was 10 years ago. Anyone knows who my younger daughter was in total disbelief because of the strong and loving relationship we had. This one's a long one, but she basically is talking what happened at college. Yeah, it takes like a year and a half. And it's way too common. The universities, boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. I do know all about. That's been one of my focuses is K-12 and university education and what is transpiring there. In fact, I've collected quotes that are, some of them very shocking about things that you would never expect to come out of some of these schools and national leaders, just open, blatant kind of stuff that's anti-family. And it's been going on for 50 plus years.
Yeah. And what we want to do is it needs to stop. It's gone way too far. It's gone way too far in movies, in universities, in other areas. So everyone wanted to ask what they could help with. So there's like 5 of us doing it. I don't have a lot of time because I actually work from DC now in the anti-sex trafficking stuff with the Cozy. So we made theaudience.us, theaudience.us. And we're going to start helping kids in classes. We're going to start helping people in studios. We're going to start helping the citizens who are being overridden when they have a professor and that professor is supposed to be teaching music and they're teaching anti-religion, anti-family, or even better, we have a professor teaching literature and she's teaching be a hyper-feminist and anti-masculinity, then they got to be held accountable and they got to be fired. They're ruining the universities. They're providing students with no value and they're ruining the thing that holds up the universities, their families. Everything is downstream from the family. And I hate to say it, but the father, because when he goes, usually everything else follows. Moms do a really good job alone, but it is so hard. It is so hard. And very rarely does a mom bail and leave a father alone. So it's almost hard to like recognize if a father can even hold it. I don't think I could. And so, yeah, they are destroying in 2 steps the value they provide, the future careers of the kids, and the family units that those kids return to, just like what you're seeing. And they're going to have a DreamWorks awakening where people say, I'm not paying for this anymore. I'm not coming to this anymore. It no longer has value because I have 2 options. I've got BYU, which is like this now. And I went there, scholarship. I was through there with the whole thing. And even while I was there, I was like, if the religious department doesn't hold it together and keep it in check, it's going to become what Berkeley was 10 years ago. So then you've got BYU, and then you've got like a Stanford and a Berkeley, an NYU or a UCLA. And you're like, how different are they? A little bit in cost, but like in value of what they're giving. And then you have YouTube and self-knowledge and classes you take on your own. And that is really fast, dwarfing both of them. And I don't think you want to see those structures go down like so many churches are, so many movie studios are, so many organizations are, like Boy Scouts. So yeah, they got to wake up. They got to wake up. But anyways, yes, you had some questions and I overrode them. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you're good. I appreciate you going through that. I think it's super valuable for people to just at least understand that um, the process, how you take either a villain or a hero and get them to say and do the things that will identify and associate certain ideas with that type of person. And I mean, it's completely insidious. And and like you said, kids watch films hundreds of times, it seems. You know,
they just repeat them, and they
Yeah.
learn a lot of their core values in those ages from 3 to 8.
Yeah. So I want to just have you step through a couple of examples from some of these things, and you shared some of these with me. I just want to pull up.
Yeah, grab any example.
Yeah. Hang on.
Some
here.
of these have never been shown, so it's good to show them.
Okay. So here's an advertisement that you sent. I thought let's start with something that's historical that everybody can really understand. So talk a little about this and what this is from.
So I didn't know what any of this was, and I didn't even perceive it while we were doing it at DreamWorks. It was only when they brought in all of us in a huge meeting and the producer told us what we were doing. It was actually a gay guy that rose up and said, "Why does this movie suck? Why is the villain," like he didn't say it exactly like that, but he did say some curse words. But he's like, "Why does the villain not have a backstory? It makes no sense. There's no motive. She's just evil for evil's sake." And she said the part you're not supposed to say. She said, "Do you know the religious zealots who voted for Proposition 8?" Quote from Alex, the producer, who's also producer of Lion King, producer of Beauty and the Beast, came from Disney. They go back and forth, Disney and DreamWorks. They're like sister companies. They're like, DreamWorks is surrounded by Disney. I don't know if people know that. Like literally the building. So anyways, and then Pixar and PDI were the two tech hubs up in the Silicon Valley, and that's where I worked out of in San Francisco. So I didn't know what it was even while I was working on it, because I would only work on shot by shot. So when the producer and the director started explaining it to us, what we were doing, I was like mind blown. And they were like, "Yeah, we're targeting." Well, they didn't say we are targeting. They said we are making the villain the religious zealot who voted for Proposition 8. It was in later meetings where I found out who we were targeting, because they asked me to show them every part that would offend a religious audience. The meeting lasted 5 minutes, because after so short of watching the film, I told them to Google the words we were using, and up popped Heritage Foundation. I didn't know what that was at the time. I learned about what it was on the 5th floor of DreamWorks. Proclamation to the family of our church came up, and I was like, this is not, I didn't sign up for this. This is not real. This is like, I'm not living this. So then I realized, oh my gosh, it's throughout the whole movie, and the adoption scenes and the parent scenes and the villain scenes that was the thing that sparked everything. You have the example that you'll see, and it's in the other videos. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're making an entire propaganda piece. No wonder almost everyone in the studio hates this video. Or it was Peabody and Sherman, what we were working on. And yeah, it was awful to realize. But then I was like, what are we doing? Like, I didn't even have words for it. So I started learning words that they were saying and what we were doing. Like, I, even a religious guy, do not use the word zealot. They used it. Like, I do not use the word social engineering. This is something I learned. I do not use the word like propaganda and things. I just thought that was like a military term or an agenda. And what they said is, when I started pointing them out, they said, what he's telling us is we're not being deceptive enough. And then I was like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. This is worse than I thought. And then what I didn't expect is for the studio to tank. I left before it tanked, but I didn't expect it to do what it did. But either way, what I learned from watching it is that the other studios were doing the same stuff. And I started seeing it in sitcoms, and I started seeing it in news, like local news. And then I did work for KSL for a little while. We're doing it there. And I worked for Microsoft in video games. We're doing it so blatantly, they're not even hiding it. And so I started like looking at this and like typing in words, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not a new thing. Other people have used the villain fat guy or the villain idiot to ruin a culture or a group of people. So that's what you're seeing here. These are like drawings from like the 20s and 30s from Europe, where they're showing a German and they're showing what a Jew looks like. This is exactly what we were doing, like to a bizarre exactness. We were making them overweight. We were making them exactly like this guy. I mean, when you see the character, just swap him to a female. And then everyone who is non-traditional family, non-religious, affluent, quick-witted, intelligent, quick, funny looks like the one on the left. So this is not a new thing. It's clearly a device used in evil. It's something people should know about so they can recognize it, realize what it can become, in this case, the Holocaust, and make sure to protect people from it as kindly and benevolently as you can, so you do not become the very thing they want you to be, and that is cruel, unhinged, and unchristlike. And that is a hard thing to do. How do you protect people from this while not becoming the thing that they are, which is an accuser, an attacker, a deceiver? And yeah, so this is how it starts. The Holocaust began not with ovens. It began with composers making music and children's books designs and children's books. This is how they began to build and breed into the culture of Europe a animosity towards Jews. And they are doing it today. They're doing it with other groups. They're marginalizing them. They are objectifying them. They're groupifying them and making them, like parents, like elders, like religious folks, like conservatives, they're making them hated. And so we have to push it back. We have to wake people up and say, guys, no, this doesn't end well. And like you see from my Vegas friend, you see what happens next. It goes kind of like in Germany. And I hate it when people compare things to the Holocaust, so it's because it's so extreme. But in this case, I've never heard anyone compare this. They would say he's like Hitler. I'm not saying that. Look at the drawings. And then when you see the animations we do, there is no non-comparison here. People who work on it probably don't know how close they are to doing such a dangerous endeavor in children's media. They probably have no idea what line they are walking and how dangerous of consequences it can create. And then you see where it comes, like it does in Germany. You've got to not just remove the parent. The next step is you've got to remove the God. They did that. People think the Germans were Christian. No way. Hitler was their God. All right. He became the religion. What happens is, and this is what my Vegas friend is saying, is you got the step that I think that's going to happen is paganism. And that is a step we have not seen for hundreds and hundreds of years, or in cultures that are so foreign and undeveloped that we just look at them like a documentary on Nat Geo. And we might begin to see things like we would be so surprised what we're seeing today with pronouns and cats and screwed up families and people switching genders, which is non-biological and non-working and non-fulfilling for the little girls and boys who are having this thrust on them. Like we're seeing that is what would be considered so surprising 10 years ago, but we were socially engineering it. What it looks like, we might begin to see the paganism have a rise. And I do think we're beginning to see it. So you should be on watch for it, warn about it, and get ready to reverse that really quick. So this is a drawing. This looks like this drawing could have been done in the 90s. It was done in probably has a date.
1936 down there, yeah.
1936. So 30s.
So let me, I'm not going to play the clip, but I'll just go to a scene. Whoops, not this one. Hang on.
But really quick. People don't know that.
Yeah.
Willow. People don't know this. I've been getting so many comments. I don't even know what to respond. That Disney was evil from the beginning, that he was like a Mason. I don't get the Mason thing. I don't understand it. I don't understand where it's coming from. No one ever explains like the Masons wrote the Book of Mormon. This is what people are telling me. Walt Disney was a Mason, and then they never continue it. Where they're like, and what did that do? Like, they were trying to make a book that was like freeing people from government decline, because that's what the Book of Mormon. That's like what their goal was. And they want to make it free. Like, and then like Walt Disney was trying to make like children's musicals. That's how he started. He did not start with Bambi and all this other narrative. He started with the innovation of syncing music to a moving drawing. His actions don't line up with sinister motives. They don't line up. And this is him talking to Congress when he was brought in, because they were trying to do social engineering back in the 40s. And they were going through the unions, kind of like today. It's more through investor groups and activist groups. They were going through the unions, and they were implanting people to push communistic, sort of anti-family, and anti-government, anti-democracy, anti-republic narratives throughout Disney. And they were pushing out artists that were more pro-American, pushing in these progressive, hyper-Russia feel-gooders into this. And this is Disney approaching Congress and explaining what this is. It's not political. It is anti-American. And what he means by anti-American, it is anti-freedom. It is anti-prosperity. It is anti a free studio to make the movie they want. We have found ourselves back in the same situation. The only difference is, in my belief, because I wasn't there, is that the studio heads right now do not have the courage and the core that Disney had. And from what I know and everything I've seen, he was a very strong Christian, and I think he would be on our side today, pleading with them and trying to resurrect the studio into what it was intended to be, and that was a magical experience for children, which most of us all experienced at Disney World or Disneyland. I mean, no one puts the animals like that. No one puts the rides like that, and it's a small world. And the music, unless you have some sort of emotional love, you just don't do it. You don't approach music like this if you want to harm people. That's something the studio CEOs do, not the musicians. They don't have it in them. It's like saying a contract. It's just not there. They're creators. You don't create so you can destroy. It makes no sense. It's the opposite. You create because you love to build and to make and to give. And so I don't buy it. And if you watch this clip, or if you Google it on YouTube, you just type in Walt Disney Congress, you'll see what he was saying. You can just play like 30 seconds of it. It's only.
I did listen to it. Let's see here. I'm not sure if it's going to pass the audio through. Hang on just a second.
I love the guy. I respect what he did. I know he was a hard guy to work for. Most people are, but he had a core, he had a soul, and he had a vision, and he worked through his death to create it.
Okay, I'm going to try and play this.
And we're ruining it. In the year 2024, we're ruining it. It took 100 years to create, and we're capable of destroying it in a decade.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's a political party. I believe it's an un-American thing. And the thing that I resent the most is that they are able to get into these unions and take them over. And I feel that they really ought to be smoked out and shown up for what they are, so that all the good free causes in this country, all the liberalisms that really are American, can go out without this taint of communism.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
You should listen to the whole thing. You can listen to the whole thing. Reagan was actually with him. He wasn't a president. He was way before when he was actor, and he was pleading for them to stop as well. He was showing, kind of like we're showing today, this was not just an animation kids thing. It was in adult films too. Reagan was saying, you got to stop this. These guys are entrenching their way into the culture, so that, because people don't understand law and religion, which is cultural, and a lot of other things are downstream from culture, and culture is usually produced from a weird source, the arts. And the arts can have this, I mean, people devalue them as just paintings or whatever, but they form, there's this like legend, and no one knows if it's really true. It's like a hearsay, but it's spread all over the Silicon Valley. I don't know if you've ever heard it. And it's Steve Jobs walks into a coffee shop, and he walks up to two guys, and the two guys are the ones who tell this story. This is when he was alive, obviously. And he walks up, this is like 1997. And he walks up to the two guys and he says, who's the most powerful person in the world? And the two guys, well, the one guy who spoke didn't know. And at the time, Nelson Mandela was like pretty popular. So he was like, Mandela? And he's all, no, the storyteller. And Disney's had a monopoly on that for the last 100 years, and I'm going to take it. And then he left. And that's a legend that people tell in the Silicon Valley about Jobs. One of the crazy stories. They have no motive for telling that, and they have no interest in some sort of outcome from it. So it sounds real. But whether it is or not, he's right. The storyteller has that much power. And from that point, he actually did it. He started Pixar, invested heavily in it. And it wasn't part of Disney. Disney ended up buying it from him. Now they're tanking it. And so they haven't had a successful movie in like 5 movies, which was unheard of. It had a unbroken streak of success. Anyways, you can go to another clip.
total
And,
home
we can
runs,
show 'em.
one after another, and then things shifted. So yeah, I want to have you. Okay, this is a scene out of one of the more recent Star Wars films, and
Yeah, before you play it, a guy from ILM contacted me. That's who makes Star Wars. And I thought maybe he wanted to like get mad. I mean, ILM was one of my dream places to work. It's the top of the
Yeah.
top, Industrial Light Magic. And I couldn't believe it. I just listened, and he went through the entire Star Wars of how frustrated he was what they did with it. Disney has been taking great movies and ruining them, great series and socially engineering them, letting other people besides a director or a great storyteller make them, destroying the archetypes, changing them to be a propaganda piece like what you're about to see, which is anti-religion. And people are, their natural light inside of them, this is not taught, are repulsing from it. So anyways, the ILM guy confirmed everything. He went on about the anti-masculine. He said how frustrated he was. He said, thank you for doing it. He didn't have a clear path though. It's like, well, what do you do? They would fire him so fast if he talked. That if he brought this up, I mean, where's he going to go work? Like, it's so specialized.
Yeah.
He has so much to lose. I already lost it and then built it back up, so I'm safe. Anyways, yeah, show the clip. This is anti-religion.
Let me. I don't want to play the whole thing, but the scene is Luke is ready to burn down the Jedi Temple, and Yoda shows up, and you think, I remember watching this, and it's like Yoda's going to save the day.
Yeah, it's out of control.
So I think I just skipped ahead a little bit, but so Yoda destroys it.
Yoda destroys their, end quote, what they call it, their religion, with all of the sacred tech in it, and then basically mocks them. And the hero on a quest is a complete moron the entire video, the entire show, who cannot solve anything, who looks like he just woke up from like cancer. Like I didn't even want to watch it. It's so hurtful. People ask, how are they lacing this in? They're taking movies that people have already grown to trust, love, and have core value with, and they're lacing it into those because they know people value those. They associate them with truth and all these memories, and then they are using those to lace them, and then they're thinking, well, they'll associate now these new ideas, anti-religion, with what we just showed them because it's Yoda doing it, but this is very hopeful. People are repulsing from it. People are rebelling. I never in my life imagined ever there would be so much animosity towards Disney. I had no idea till these podcasts came out what the degree of animosity. I have moms all over the country saying they will never go there again, like to Disneyland. They will never watch it again. They hate it. They're like raving mad at it. I would be terrified if I was running the show there, realizing how badly they had offended their audience. I have no idea if they know I didn't know how far it has gone. And then the comments and what people say, I try to calm them down. I'm like, whoa, hold on. It's not that bad. Oh no, they're over it. They have been fully offended. They have been fully, I should say, betrayed. That's the word, not offended. They have been betrayed. And I didn't know to the degree that it has happened and people are recognized. It actually shows the hope in the future that people can recognize it, whether they know it or not, and they repulse it because they feel something. They know something is not right and they reject it. These are not people, they didn't even have to hear what I was talking about. And they're still rejecting it. DreamWorks was so hardcore rejected that it sold everything. It's not DreamWorks, it's Comcast now. That's why you don't see a lot of new DreamWorks stuff. I don't even know what they're doing. Anyways, yeah, show a couple more clips so people can see. They're probably tired. Maybe if they have any questions, they can write them to you and they can ask because that will be more helpful. And I apologize if I've been rambling.
Let me. I'm actually just going to switch gears. Let me pull up your website here, though. This is theaudience.us.
Yeah. So this isn't my website.
Oh, okay.
People were asking what they could help with.
Mhm.
And I've had some really great people reach out. I have one of them here. Where, oh my God, this one came today. She's like, hello, my name is, I'm not going to say her name. I'm a grandmother of 4, and I've watched your interviews on YouTube. I just finished the second one. I'm ready to do what I can to draw awareness to social engineering and raise my voice to promote the power of the audience. I want to save what is good at Disney. I agree. I currently teach early morning seminaries as a member of the church to 25 youth. I see some of these perverted ideas causing confusion in our kids. I was prompted to send a message and hope I can be of assistance. I know you are very busy. It's very true. But I just got back from DC where I work. But I am sure there are many of us that could organize and make a difference. I look forward to hearing from you as your time permits. Thank you for your sacrifices and speaking out. Sincerely, from Indiana, Indianapolis. Thank you. I need some help like this. This is not a goal to attack anything. This is a goal to remind people or to teach people that they are in charge of the content. I didn't know this. People think studio heads tell directors and directors tell artists to create like a script in a movie. That's how it's shown. Even people in the industry think that's how it's done. It is not. There's another step where investors invest in the movie or the studio does, but there's another step. They're taking a risk on that movie that they're hoping to get money back. And the only person who can ever give that money back is the audience. And so when I went to them and they said, Andrew, what will keep you here at DreamWorks? I said, 2 things. Let's take out the social engineering, or let's tell people that we're doing it. Let's put a disclaimer, or let's tell them, or let's do some intro videos and explain we're doing this. And Holly, the main producer, said, well, we're not going to take it out unless an audience gets mad. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. We do all of these. We bring in all these people and we show them the movie before it comes out, kids and parents, and we get their feedback. We ask them, what did you think of this part? What did you like this? We watch when they laugh. And then we have studio people in there listening. Is this going to work? How are people going to respond? And we do all these tests with the audience. And it's true. If an audience gets mad in one of those tests, they remove it like that. They are so scared that that movie flops because there is so much stake that thing loses. And I'll show a bunch of examples of what they've done with Willow, lost 100 million. What they've done with Little Mermaid, they lost 300 million. What they have done with Elemental, I can't even watch it. It's such a beautiful series that they ruined. And this is one of the most extreme versions that they went forward. Anyways, I didn't mean to digress to Willow where you were saying.
Hey, you said that, so I just pulled up the picture because I had it here. So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, so anyways, what she said, to go back to the audience, what she said is, we're never going to take it out unless an audience gets mad. And what she meant is when we do these audience tests, if they get mad, they have justification to remove or add something into the movie. It's too long here. It's too dry. We got to cut this. We got to cut that. It's a very expensive decision-making process because you might have spent millions of dollars to make a sequence and you got to pull that out. So that they don't do it lightly. They have to have leverage, and the audience is the leverage. And so I was like, well, why don't we just tell them then? Why don't we just tell people what we're doing? I can still work here. We'll all be good about it. I prefer to be on a different film. And they're like, we'll make that happen. We'll put you on How to Train Your Dragon just like that. And I was like, well, we're doing it in all of them. So I was like, why don't we just tell them what we're doing? And they're like, we'll never tell them. Let's see. I got to get her words exactly right. We'll never tell them or they'll be furious. She said they'll be furious if we tell them. And I was like, what the heck? It was so weird. And I felt so upset. And like, I hope no person has to go through these meetings where your job and your wife is waiting, like at the house, and you have a new baby and you're like, wow, what are my options? Because you get blacklisted. You don't just get a job at Pixar or Disney once you leave one of them. They know exactly where you've been and where you won't get to work. They even put you on a contract where you can't work at other places if you leave them. So you have so much to lose. And this is why the other members of the church who were in there did nothing or were not willing to do enough. And yeah, that was really hard. In fact, if they would have helped more, and I'm not trying to be mean, but if they would have helped more, I think we could have saved the studio. I think we could have helped them see kindly and benevolently what we were doing and tried to help it before it went off the cliff.
So
So
let me
that's
ask,
why, and so people ask for help. And so I made a thing, and there's a couple people like this nice grandmother, and we're going to begin writing letters to the right people. We're going to begin helping them. We are not going to fight them, okay? It can come to a fight, but it doesn't have to. I know these people, they're not evil, okay? When people say Disney are evil, that's like saying the church is evil. There might be a couple weirdos in there or bad eggs, but the church is not evil. It is good at its core. And 99.99% of the people in it are good at their core. Okay, there might have been one Yahoo and he got kicked out or something, but that's a bad comparison. But either way, there's a way to help them, because right now the other people who are pushing these are not benevolently doing it. They're screaming at them and threatening them. And they're basically saying, you get nothing unless you do this. So I need them to see the audience has a desire for pro-family content, pro-religious content. You don't have to be pro-religious. Just make a moral, good versus evil. Pro-archetypal. If you don't know what archetypal is, it's the core stories that we're all born with. You can tell a toddler or someone that has never spoken English in a foreign island, and if you tell them certain stories, they will react the same way. It is in our DNA or our spirits or our souls or our memories from the pre-existence. It is something in us, and we all respond the same way to a hero on a quest, to marriage between a man and a woman, to good versus evil, to evil in general, what it is, and unfairness, and rage. There are all these archetypal patterns, and they have ruined them. So what they did in Willow is they took it and they had a beautiful movie. If you ever watch the making of the movie and you watch Ron Howard's eyes and George Lucas's eyes that made this movie, you see the light in their eyes and the innovation of the things they were doing and everything they were trying to do to build this beautiful movie that came out in like the 80s, late 80s. This is how Val Kilmer blew up. And they took it and they said, wow, this is still possible to do. People love this. They remember it from their childhood. It's like a part of their life. And they made it, which is something that's happening right now, a hyper-sexualization lesbian movie. I like, it's awful to even say that, where within the first 30 seconds, you wouldn't even allow this of a man and a woman, let alone youth, to, and the clip is there if you want to watch it. I hate watching it.
I watched the clip. I don't want to play it. I don't want to play it.
Okay, you don't want to play it. This is a kids show. This is Disney Plus, a kids show. And by the way, they canceled the entire thing. And I think it's because people like me, after 30 seconds of watching it, because they know exactly when you stop and when you turn it off and when you bail and when you subscribe, they know all of it. And once they watch those numbers go down, again, reinforcing the audience is in charge of the content. You just haven't been taught how to push for the right content, how to fight for the right content, how to hold people accountable for the right content, and how to not protect and support the wrong content, because what you watch is what they get funding for to make more of. So that's why horror movies will not stop. There's this weird audience that will not stop going to them. They keep them profitable. They will not go away until this audience gets something from their youth out of their system. I have no idea what it is, which is horror, and I don't understand it. I've been asked to work on so many horrors. I tell them right away, it's wrong guy.
So Andrew, let me ask this to kind of, because we're coming up on the hour here. So I want to ask you a couple of questions. You've indicated, we need to push the right buttons, and you've got this website out here, theaudience.us. There's a form here.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a couple folks who can say if they've got if you have time and you want to help. This is not just for entertainment. This is for anywhere, like students at university, anywhere that the audience is being just slammed. Employees at companies, these poor employees that were forced to get vaccinated against their will, forced to take trainings that they totally disagree with. We have lost our friggin' minds of what we are forcing the people that make everything happen.
So
So two things, you already control the content. So that is a two-edged sword. That means where we are right now is our fault. It is not just the director's fault. We let it get to where it is. We supported those edgy movies in the 80s that turned into the really sick movies in the 90s that have turned into the completely destructive movies in the 20s and the 2020s. We helped it get there, but we didn't know. We didn't know that you could step in and say, no, I'm sorry. I am the main investor here. I am going to go to the counter of the ticket or the Netflix subscription. I'm going to say no. And then I'm going to say to all my friends and family, here is why I don't do it. Because when Netflix comes out and pushes for abortion, that is a world that is not valuable. That is political. That is not where they should step. And that is not where they should influence. And so, yeah, you cancel it right there and then. And you let everyone else know to cancel it. And then you write them a letter and you write them explaining why you did it. You talk to your senators. You talk to your Congress people. You write. You talk. The way to get information to the church is you write a letter. You write a letter, literally, and you put it in the mail, and you say, "Dear Elder Eyring," or whatever, and you talk to them, and they talk back, and you can help them. I've told Oaks this whole story. He knows all of it, okay? And he was very respectful and very kind, and I was super appreciative to him. And so, anyways, that has no bearing. I just wanted him to know. I wanted him to know, to be aware of what we were doing. His response was, "I'm not surprised." Isn't that funny? Which is good. He sees it. So anyways, the audience has responsibility for where we've come to. We have to hold some responsibility. So that's not a good feeling that we helped it get here. But now we have to have responsibility to help take it back, to help remind people that the studio is not in charge. The studio is not beholden to the investor. The studio is beholden to the audience. So this is where I want people. There's no money involved. There's no employees. There's no people in charge. This is much like a Wikipedia where people will be there. They'll be able to show, this is where I'm seeing it. This is the studio that's doing it. This is the school teacher who's doing it. Or you don't even have to use their name. This is the school. We want to do a respectful reach out to the school, tell them our concerns, show them some really well studies that show how this is counterproductive, especially to youth at that age. We want to show them, give some very nice abilities for them to reverse. And then obviously, if it doesn't happen, yeah, you have to be an adult. You have to get lawyers. You have to, and sometimes, like in the pornography industry, that's what we have to do. We have to sue them. They won't stop, which is probably the most gravitas social engineering there is, which is being the teacher for sex. And it is saying it is violent, it is power control, and that women are ownable and an object, and you can possess them. You can own them. They are a product. That is what porn is socially engineering our youth to believe. They will not come to the table. Pornhub and OnlyFans and the European companies and Revisitors and Backpage. So at that point, you have to use force and you have to say, I'm sorry, we have to get the DOJ involved. We have to use lawsuits and we have to use law and legislation to stop this. It is less of a pain to do that than to watch our culture and our children crumble. So that's why we do it.
So culturally, I mean, we're in a bad spot, obviously. We're like so far gone that like I used to tell people, hey, be very careful about where your children go to school. Make sure you know what the teachers are teaching, what's in your kids' textbooks. Try to understand what's happening in the classroom. Never tell your kids when they go to school, now listen to your teacher. I learned that.
I know.
We learned that when our kids were little. You can't. Because the kids would come home and they would say, wait a minute, you told me to listen to my teacher. My teacher said this, and it contradicts you, parents. So what I tell people now is, if you send your child to school, tell them, now look, your teacher might say some things that aren't quite, correct. And so if you ever get confused, come home and talk to us, because we're the authority figures. We're the ones that will help correct that. And
we tell them, we don't even say quiet correct. We'll say, yeah, your teacher will sometimes lie to you. And sadly, because we love teachers and we recognize that they got into it generally out of benevolence, and we have to tell them, no, they're going to tell you some things that are wrong, and we have to teach them about gender, and we have to teach them about marriage. And then sadly, we have to tell them about even church teachers now. I'm sorry, there will be some teachers who will teach you wrong.
Yeah.
And then when I say, well, what is right? The scriptures, the scriptures. And that's your source, that's your source. I even have to tell them, hey, I might say something wrong. I might be off, and you got to check me with these scriptures. They've endured thousands of years. They've been proven. They've worked for this long. They show what works. They show what doesn't. That's why your system you make, the scripture notes, is so valuable. It gets people into them. I want to help with it. I want it to succeed. I want more people to get into it. We're going to do some scripture stuff in the studio, so we'll have you up here to do some scripture notes stuff where characters jump out of the page and people can interact with them, and they can make these things come alive, because they you don't need that to make them come alive. But yeah, that's the teacher. That is the teacher. It's God, and that's where you get it from.
Yeah. The problems that have arisen are largely because of a shift from there is absolute truth from a source to moral relativism and the disintegration of the idea that you can even have an absolute truth. And without that, you have no foundation. There's nothing to go back on it. All of Western civilization is built on the idea that we have a foundation of truth in God's word.
I would even say selfless truth. It's not just truth like this is just and this is what's right. It's selfless truth. It's leaders not putting themselves before the audience. It's teachers not putting themselves before their students or what they think is best. It's the bottom all the way down to the lowest of the lows, not putting themselves before any other person. This is why Rome fell. People don't understand this. And it's why a lot of they became selfish from top to bottom. They lost their truth. Their truth, I don't know if people know the truth. Oh, by the way, someone asked a question. They want to know if this can be recorded so they can show it to their family. So you can record
it is recorded, and
you can post it wherever you want, and you can show it to your family, whatever. But Rome, it's so fascinating. They had this beautiful truth of the farmer. The farmer was the core truth. They would say things like, you can't own a farm larger than 2 acres and be trusted because you're exploiting something or someone. Like you can't trust a man if he has a farm larger than 2 acres. He's doing something shady. Still kind of true to this day. And that's what they were exploiting. They were exploiting slaves or forced labor. They became really lazy. They didn't want to work. They were being selfish. The emperors all the way to the top were putting themselves first. It was their agenda first. It was their wants, the armies, anyways, it's a long story. I love it. But yeah, it's selfless truth. We got to keep that. And that's one of the things the stories are missing now.
I don't know if anybody has a question for Andrew. You can post that in the Q&A, and we'll take a look at that real quick. Andrew, is there you're a storyteller, you're an animator, you've been involved in this for a long time. Everybody identifies with and loves a great story, and there's tons of them out there. There's classics, there's things in the scriptures. What to you, like in the scriptures, there's so many stories, but do you have a favorite story and why you identify with it that might illustrate for people great storytelling that helps to teach a principle? This kind of out of the blue.
I love Joseph Smith, the flawed man doing amazing things, like A Perfect Book of Mormon, coming from a young 20-year-old. It took him 3 months to translate it. He's 14, has to get hit up from everyone today and back then. No one has any idea what they're trying to prove for or against him. And yet they still hate on him. He's created the best government manual that anyone could ever read to keep a mature civilization thriving. what makes it go down, what makes it go up. He's created a historical masterpiece that with LiDAR tech, we're finding all of these civilizations and cities all across the Amazon, all the way up to North America, all the way down, that perfectly corresponds with the millions of people that it talks about, that people are like millions. And this is not even Chichen Itza. This is other one. These are new ones they're finding with the LiDAR tech, which is amazing. His questioning, he wasn't reactive, he was proactive. He didn't wait for something to happen. He went and asked. He was willing. Like, why would he die? Well, if you're a womanizer, you're gonna go into jail and get shot up for that. Is that worth it? No. There's something deeper, and that's because there is something deeper. I love his story. I love his story because, I mean, obviously Jesus is king and he's the best and he's the source of all the knowledge. But like, Joseph is someone you can actually reach. You can actually relate to, you know. You're inspired by Jesus and God and his words, but you can actually have a relationship with them, but I mean, it's like with God. But Joseph, he's like your friend. Like, you can see, oh, remember when he went through this? He knows what that's like. I mean, Jesus knows all that. But yeah, and then Enoch is my big one lately. It's huge. Oh my gosh, Enoch. Everyone's saying that we're trending down, and we are on this like that the world's getting worse, our culture's getting worse. It's not getting worse for me. It's getting better every day. I can't believe what is happening. If you knew where I was the last 2 weeks, it would blow your mind in DC. What senators I was meeting with, which departments of the government I was meeting with, what we were talking about, how I was pleading, and we were helping them to see what was happening. Only God. So like, you can have a perfect culture, a Zion-like culture in your home, in your work, in your car, in your family. That's like where you can create it there. Like, create that Enoch, like, no poor among them, pure in heart, working for each other. Right now we're in a debt society. Everyone is in debt. They figured out how to get rid of the debt society. That's what I was talking with, like, for example, Lee and Curtis, and some of the others who I was with. They were talking all about the money. And they really had some downer comments, which was actually really frustrating. They did not have a better option than what I was asking for. But there's these books. Here's a book. I have this book. I love it. I didn't make this. This is a book that almost no one knows about. I love this book. It's called Of One Heart, Look Back at Sodom. I brought a couple books just because that way you can kind of see where my mind is getting stuff. This is by Neal A. Maxwell. Remember Maxwell? Wasn't he a boss? I love that guy. He writes a book as if someone was living in Sodom and Gomorrah, and Sodom in two different places, and as if someone is living in the city of Enoch and they're writing letters to each other. And the letters, he explains where he gets all the info and where his assumptions come from, because he had to make up some of it. But he's saying we don't have any text to describe what it's like, but it's amazing what they talk about and how they got there and what the city of Enoch, or Zion, was surrounded by evil, and there were wars happening all among them, and they were being attacked. It wasn't easy to do what they did. It wasn't like the leader, Enoch, had to lead his people to battle. So he wasn't afraid of taking on a fight or losing or being hurt. He also could move mountains and do like crazy miracles. So that's a help. But yeah, they figured it out. They figured out how to take a mature society, which no one has done. Not England, not Rome, not Greece, not Egypt, not Persepolis, not even America right now, because we're watching it repeat everything that has happened in these other ones where they raise to a certain debt and corruption and imbalance of the have and have-nots. And he figured out how to reverse that. Enoch did. And it's the only example I've seen, but I think we can get there. I think we can start getting in that mentality of, yeah, things are not getting worse. They are getting better. They are getting like the city of Zion. I'm trying to create that in my family, not in like a weird way, just like in a loving way and like a supported and stable way. I'm trying to prepare for any problems that could be coming down the pipe and really build everything off of scriptures and the modern day prophets and the ancient prophets. The thinking celestial was great, and and it's working. I've never felt so fulfilled and happy, and I think everyone can get there, independent of what is happening around you.
Yeah,
It comes from a quiet center, and you are amazed what you ripple out and what you can create and what you can do when you set that phone down and you say no more. Social is such a joke, and the noise and you just get back to that very gentle, quiet readings and relationship building, time with your kids, and you then get your mind in that state. You take care of yourself health wise, you stretch, you do all those, things spiritually and physically, and you get to a point where you start to realize what life is about. It is a very good thing. It is a very fun, enjoyable, adventurous thing. The problems don't become problems, and the goods become simple. They're not what you think they would be. So, would you like to see another book?
sure. I know we're
We'll do it later.
We'll do it later. Good. If you want to share another one of your favorites, that's cool.
Well, what did they have any questions? If they don't, that's okay. They don't need to do any questions.
Yeah, nothing else has popped up here from the group. I think this has been super fascinating and helpful, and
okay.
I think just helping to get people to understand how it works, see some examples. It just puts something in your mind so that next time you see it, you're like, oh, this is one of those examples. It's happening right in front of me. And if your kids are with you, you can explain to them what's going on. And this is super helpful for people. And
the goal of the audience is so that then you start seeing examples of what a good father looks like. You haven't seen it for a decade or more.
Right.
You haven't seen the Field of Dreams or the Atticus Finch or the I can't use that example because he sort of ruined everything. You're not seeing it. You're not seeing the good mothers who are feminine and respected and beautiful and nurturing and bringing life. I read a quote in every single one. I'll end it on this, okay? It's a good quote.
Yeah.
Men and women, not in worth, but in design, are not equal. I mean, they can't go back and forth. They're complementary. Take a man and a woman and join them together, marriage, and they become something greater than either could be alone, a family. A man is designed to lead and provide and protect and fill the need that a woman has, security. That's what women love, security. I've not had one woman respond to me about this and deny any of it. Security. In turn, the woman does what no man can and what even the world cannot do without her. She gives life. The beautiful result when a woman and a man fulfill the measure of their design is a home, a nation, and a world enshrined in secure life. That's it. And if you add God in there, it all becomes eternal. But those are truths that the entertainment industry and the education industry and a whole bunch of others have lost. And we are seeing the crumbling because of it. And yeah, that's it. That's what we got to bring back. So that's what we're doing. We're bringing it back. We're being the examples ourselves. And it's going good. So it's been great. I hope your audience enjoyed it. And anything I can help with, just message Oak, I guess, and he can forward it to me. Or you can just message me, andrewredfordyoung@gmail.com. Everyone has been very positive. So it's fine to do.
Cool. Well, thank you again, Andrew. This is awesome. And thank you for doing what you're doing and taking that chance, stepping out and helping make a difference and waking people up. I mean, all across. I mean, it's parents and it's people in the industry. And I know what your goal is to try and help and, salvage what can be salvaged and not destroy. So, I'm so grateful that you're out there and sharing these things. And, every little, pebble in the pond creates that ripple, right? And it goes out. So it's
all right. Well, hopefully we can do some more stuff. And I wish you all the best. And thanks so much, Oak. And I'll stay on if you need to do anything else. And otherwise, I'll just sign off.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.